I grew up in New Zealand on a farm, and I guess I was very connected to the land. So I ate a lot of lamb, but being out on a farm, we grew lots of vegetables, and we had lots of fruit and a certain amount of herbs, etc. So I was connected to the product itself at a very, very early age. And then it wasn't until I started traveling when I was older that I moved. I guess that I went into kitchens, and I saw how exciting kitchens were, and I just really, I guess I fell in love with the creativity of it all, and the idea that you can make beautiful food in a kitchen and basically tell stories around food, and it's a very lovely and giving thing. I guess the thing when I started to cook was that I realized that it's the only job I can think of that you actually use all your senses. So you see, you touch, you smell, you taste, and even you hear the food cooking. And I loved that creativity and that feel about having a job where I used all my senses. I went and did a culinary arts degree, a 2-year cooking degree in North America, at a place called the New England Culinary Institute, which is in Vermont, and it's regarded in the top 3 cooking schools in America. And my first instructor there was a chef called Michel Leborn, and he was a real master chef, not a TV master chef, a real master chef from France. And he had a big influence on me, and it was my learnings in the kitchen was very disciplined. And he used to say, joking but in a serious way, sometimes I would put food up for him to taste, and he'd go, "Mr. Brown, you should be a shoemaker." And I'd go, "Why a shoemaker?" And he says, "Because all your food that you put up in front of me is as tough as leather." So he used to, like, he had a sense of humour, but he was also a very, very great, wonderful chef, and I owe a lot to him these days of where I've got to. The first kitchen I worked in, interesting enough, was a place called the Magic Wok, and it was a Chinese, small Chinese, I guess, takeout, or it was in a food court in the bottom of the BNZ Centre in Wellington, and this is years ago. This is before I started travelling and before I did my culinary arts degree, but it was my first taste of a kitchen. I was making wontons and sweet and sour pork and chopping lots of vegetables, and that was my first experience in a commercial kitchen. And I loved it. Again, I really, really loved it. And I think there's something wonderful about working with food. And it's a very giving career where you're making things, and people are obviously buying it, but you're giving gifts all day. My favourite dishes to eat are seafood, normally seafood, and because I grew up having family holidays on the coast, and we would catch fish, and we would dive for abalone or pawa, and we would get rock lobster, and we would dig for clams. From an early age, I understood how delicious really, really fresh seafood is. And I think New Zealand, we're very lucky in this country because we have, because of our position in the world, we don't have, we still have a resource, our ocean resource on our doorstep is still in pretty good nick. So we have to look after it, and sustainability is a big thing for me. But first of all, seafood is very precious. It's very delicate, and it has to be treated really, really like it's something very precious. So yes, I love to eat it raw, and I only eat it raw when it's live, so to shuck an oyster or to shuck a clam, it's still alive when you eat it, so it's fresh, and it tastes like the ocean. And I guess seafood, when you cook fish, or you cook different types of shellfish or crustaceans, the thing that I always keep in mind is that the product itself, that has to shine through. You don't want to cover it with too many flavours, because then you kill the actual flavour of the product. The seafood should always be the hero on the plate. And so for me personally, my idea is simplicity is best. So a perfectly cooked piece of fish with a squeeze of lemon juice is something amazing. You don't need to put a whole lot of sauces and a whole lot of flavours, etc., because it's delicate, and so you just want to enhance it, that's all. I think the wonderful thing about New Zealand is its position in the world as a country. So we have ocean that's clean, that has wonderful variety of shellfish. It's cold water, and so shellfish and finfish as well. But so lots of beautiful fish in and around. But we also, on the land, we have lots of wild game. We have deer, we have rabbits, we have wild boar, we have all that sort of thing. So, and that's all organic. Beautiful, beautiful eating product. And then of course we have the land that's farmed, and we have lots of sheep and cattle and lots of beautiful market gardens and different vegetables and etc. So again, the key to me more than anything really is simplicity, because we are very, very close to the source of our product. So we don't, again, we want the product itself. If it's a lamb dish, we want it to taste like lamb. We don't want it to taste like something else, because there's no point. And that's, I think, when we talk about New Zealand product and when people taste it in New Zealand, because you're so close to where it was grown or where it was harvested or where it was farmed, I talk about it like the volume of flavour. You know, they turn up the volume and the flavour. So it's the best lamb that you've ever eaten, or it's the freshest oyster that you've ever eaten. And the flavour point of those products is very, very strong. Well, Depot's over 3 years old now, but the idea was, as New Zealanders, we're very good at informality. We don't like formality very much. And so the idea, I kept thinking of like, when are we at our best as Kiwis or as New Zealanders, when we're eating and drinking and having fun? And it was always at the batch, like at the holiday home, which is at the beach or in a campground. So in very humble abodes where it's not about where you're at, it's about hospitality and it's about friendship and it's about generosity. And those are the things, I guess, those are the points for me that I wanted to try and commercialise, because when you walk into Depot, the noise is wonderful. It's just chatter and laughter, and because it's informal, and it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, gay, straight, fat, skinny, from China, from Fiji, from Germany. It's a melting pot of cultures and people. But the commonality, I guess, or the thing that binds everyone and brings people together is the food. The food and the wine is relatively simple, but it brings together, it makes conversation and it creates an environment of fun, and that's food. Food should be fun. It's entertainment. It should be, and that's the thing that you can always guarantee when you eat at Depot or Fed or even at Best Ugly, that you're not just eating, you're having an experience and you're enjoying the surroundings that you're in. So it's very important to me to get that right. If you come to Depot, there's a few things that you have to do, well, you should do if you want the Depot experience. One is that you should have something from the raw bar. So the raw bar, so we have different types of oysters, different types of clams, so you should start with something like that. There's two other signature dishes at Depot that you should try as well. One, and still raw, is the raw kingfish on oyster cream with apple and lemon and fennel oil, and that's absolutely beautiful and delicious and really light. And then the one dish that's sort of the signature dish of Depot is a little fish hamburger called a slider. And sliders, I guess, are what made Depot famous. And nearly every customer that comes to Depot has a plate of sliders. They should have that, but then they should also try the lamb ribs. The lamb ribs are really good. The pork hock and the skirt steak. A lot of the food that we cook at Depot, when I talk, it's not fillet steak, it's skirt steak. It's not pork fillet, it's pork hock, so we use a lot of the secondary cuts, and secondary cuts, if you treat them well, they are more delicious than the prime cuts, I think. So we do a lot of that sort of thing at Depot. And then of course if you've got a sweet tooth, you must try the sugar pie. The sugar pie is the way to finish your Depot experience. I like eating out. My favourite well, there are so many favourite restaurants really, but the ones I love the Engine Room on the North Shore. That's a great restaurant. Yeah, I love Coco's Cantina on K Road, and then I like places like Barilla Dumpling on Dominion Road. To me, food is the vehicle to bring people together, to have a great time, and that's what it's all about. So good food, good company, and good conversation.